President Biden is spending one more day secluded in Camp David before the presidential debate tomorrow night as former President Trump preps on the campaign trail and talking to close advisors like Kellyanne Conway, who just spoke to him yesterday. Kellyanne joins us now, hours from the big debate. Kellyanne, how did you find his mindset? He's been through this so many times before, but it's been 3 years.
The debate stage is a natural habitat for Donald Trump. It's how he won the nomination in 2016, Brian. He vanquished 17 other men and women who were vying for the Republican nomination that year, in large part because of the debates. He had center stage August 6, 2015 in Cleveland and never lost that. It's based on polling numbers. And I think it's a natural habitat against Joe Biden for another reason. We have not seen these men shoulder to shoulder, side by side, since the last debate. Biden's returning to the scene of the crime. It's the debate stage where he lied to we the people about talking to his son about these business dealings, about Burisma. We know Hunter Biden has no energy experience and Joe Biden has no energy. We need answers on that. The 51 national security experts who lied on behalf of Biden, he promoted that lie from a debate stage. Look, President Trump is ready because he was the president. And when he was president, by every metric, the world was safer, the border was more secure, we the people were more prosperous, and so on and so forth. Biden in Camp David, I think it's been a big mistake for them to be giving his staff to be giving these interviews that dozens of them are there. They all want to see their names in the papers, feeding him answers, feeding him oxygen. It makes no sense, and I'll tell you why. The President of the United States and the Commander-in-Chief needs to act spontaneously with his or her advisors when crisis happens. You can't artificialize and anticipate every chaos and crisis in the world in a way that he's doing to answer these questions. Look, Joe Biden and his team may think they know all the questions, but Donald Trump has all the answers. And I'd like President Trump to do a couple things tomorrow. One is let Biden speak, because numbers numb Biden's brain. And when he speaks, we all see for ourselves that he's missing a couple of marbles. Number two, and most importantly, be specific, give solutions. People want policy prescriptions. We, the people, are smart. There's an essential wisdom in Americans. They expect and also accept long, specific solutions. I just don't like the format, Brian, where it's 2 minutes, 1 minute. We're supposed to solve the world's problems. And I think they're trying to box Trump in a little bit, a word here, a phrase there, and make that the big headline. Right. It's a little too late, too late for Biden in this way. People have been watching him. It's different than 2020, where we didn't see him. We saw him on camera hiding in his basement. People have been watching, and they know what they see with their two eyes. And by every polling metric, they're very worried about this president having a second term.
I just watched the whole debate last night to revisit it, to find out what it was like in 2020. Number one, I watched him run out of energy at the end. Number two, the crass language he used at President Trump. Called him a clown, told him to shut up, told him to hush up. You're the worst president ever. Just, I mean, I couldn't believe it. I thought I was watching Jamal Bowman. For everyone at home, just going in, Fox News poll, who do you trust to do a better job at? So Biden gets a plus 20 on climate change, abortion, and health care. Trump is big on immigration, big on the economy, big on the Israel-Hamas war, and other things, and overall winning in every battleground state. But this is what I understand bothers the Trump team, and tell me if it would bother you if you were on that team. They worry it's going to be 6 topics, 2 of which are going to be considered pro-Trump. The other 4 are going to be pro-Biden. And they're concerned that they're going to get his 2 minutes. The question for the 2 minutes is going to be on January 6th. It's going to be on 2020 election. Stuff that Trump's going to talk about. Then you get a rebuttal, and then you get another rebuttal. These are all things that Trump doesn't benefit talking about. But if CNN has that ability to hurt him, they will. Are they right to feel that way?
They're right to feel that way, but this is Donald Trump. He's a game day player. He's ready for that debate stage and ready for those questions. How do we know? He's been asked them before. CNN has been harping on the same thing for the last however many years. And if Joe Biden can break out of a Democratic Party that seems to be defined by every day you wake up, the calendar says January 6, 2021, the date never changes. They jump in their electric vehicle and go get an abortion. I've said it before on Fox. I'll say it again. Sounds like the questions are oriented that way, making my point. But President Trump is ready to explain his position on abortion, what he sees in 2024 for the nation, what it really means to be pro-life, but also what it means to be pro-choice. How about Joe Biden gets off the 39-week abortion nonsense of his party and comes even closer to where babies are being born in Delaware, in Kamala Harris's California, 23 weeks, 24, 25 weeks. I think President Trump should dare him that way. Say, hey, Joe, you're denying science. Let's go. But President Trump is ready, and President Biden is the guy we see every day, not ready.
I know he listens to you and might be watching right now. Also, the senior Trump official told me they fully expect that Joe Biden has the questions already, and it doesn't even bother them. But they expect that. Kellyanne, thanks so much.
Well,
Always
Trump
great.
has the answers. Trump has the answers.
He's going to have a shot.
Brian. Take care.
See you tomorrow night.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.